Hi everyone, it's nice to see you again. My name is Gaumadi. We are going to learn some America's Test Kitchen recipes and techniques today, and I'm so happy to share those with you. This is Flavors of the Mediterranean, which I love, and we're going to do 3 recipes that make the best use of some of the flavors of the Mediterranean, mostly olive oil. And so that means we need to talk a little bit about olive oil, which we will do right now. And then we're going to make a beautiful black olive, Kalamata olive pesto to go on some bruschetta. And then a simple foolproof vinaigrette, which also uses olive oil. And a really easy main course pasta dish, pasta aglio e olio, which means pasta with garlic and olive oil, and features both those ingredients really beautifully. So we're going to make all those 3 recipes today and learn about some classic Italian ingredients as we go along. I'm just going to shift that camera so you see more of me and less of the kitchen. Okay, there we go. So the first thing we want to do is talk about olive oil. Olive oil is basically the juice pressed from freshly picked olives, and they're harvested, and in the season they might be harvested early or later, and that affects the flavor of them. The first press of olive juice or olive oil is called extra virgin olive oil, and it is the highest grade. It is very fruity, and it can be slightly peppery depending on whether it was picked early in the season and then pressed, or whether the olives were picked later in the season, which gives them a chance to develop their flavors a little bit more and get plumper and juicier. And that extra virgin olive oil is more buttery, just like olives are. So if you taste olives at a grocery store, in the deli department, you'll find one is more peppery, one is more buttery, and that's the reason why they were harvested early or later in the season. So the highest grade is extra virgin olive oil, and then after that you have olive oil, and the subsequent presses are called olive oil or light olive oil, and they are low on flavor. In fact, light olive oil can really substitute for vegetable oil at a pinch. So because it doesn't have that intense fruity flavor that olive oil, extra virgin olive oil does. Today's recipes we're using extra virgin, so you can taste the flavor in each of the dishes that we're going to make. So there are key things to remember when you're buying olive oil. First of all, look for a single origin. You find olive oils that are from Greece, from Spain, from Morocco, from Italy, and if they're a blend, then usually what has happened is that the producers are looking to source olive oil from the cheapest possible places and bring them together and just bottle them together. So try and choose a single origin olive oil. It doesn't matter if it's from Spain or Italy, but as long as it's single origin, you know that it was the olives were picked and bottled from one single source rather than 4 different countries. So that's one thing to look at. I also look at the bottling. Where was it bottled? So sometimes you'll see bottled in Italy, but the olive oil actually comes from Morocco or Tunisia or somewhere else. So I look at whether it's bottled where the oil was pressed, and that's a clue as to the quality of the olive oil. Another really important thing to look at is the harvest date. So you'll see an expired by date, and it could be 24 to 32 months from the time it was bottled, and it may have been pressed a year before that. So you want to make sure that you look at the harvest date, where the olive is picked in July, and is the oil being sold in September, for instance. That means that it's fairly recent and therefore very fresh. So pick the most recent harvest date on your olive oil, and that'll give you the freshest product, because you want the flavors, you want the fruitiness, and you don't want to have been sitting around for so long and then sitting around in your home for a long time either, because it'll lose its flavor. Which brings me to the bottling. How is it bottled? Choose a dark green glass bottle for your olive oil that keeps the flavor in longer, and store it in a cool, dark place. Don't store it for more than 3 months because it's lost its flavor. Try and use it up by then. I like to use my extra virgin olive oil to drizzle on fresh ripe tomatoes in season with a little bit of basil. I also put it on fresh burrata, which is buffalo mozzarella, and then we just drizzle it all over pasta. because it adds a lovely fruity flavor to your dish after it's cooked. If you're using it for cooking and you can cook out the flavor, you can use a lighter olive oil as well. It's not a problem. And then finish with this so you really taste its fruitiness. All right, let's make our first recipe, which is a blend of black olives, Kalamata olives, and extra virgin olive oil. So let's go ahead and get those ingredients together. So what we're making is a black olive pesto. And usually when you think of pesto, you think basil, pine nuts, garlic, something green and delicious, Parmesan, to put over your pasta. But a pesto really just means a pasted sauce, and you can make it in your mortar and pestle or these days in a food processor, which is what we're going to do. But black olives immediately bring to mind a Provençal condiment called tapenade. And the only problem with tapenade is the olives are salted and you add anchovies to them, and so it's very, very salty. Also, everybody doesn't like anchovies. So what we decided to do was leave out the anchovies and make the olives into a pesto using olive oil and garlic and a little bit of minced shallot, and blending it all together with a little lemon juice for brightness. So let's go ahead and get everything in the food processor and we'll just split it up.